Hi, Cat Chancellor here with Stamp Art Connection at stampartconnection.com. Want to show you a really neat blending technique for creating a background featuring the Waves of Inspiration set. This is a set that is going to be available in March to everyone. If you got my newsletter, it gave you all the details. So please like and subscribe. Now you will need ink pads, Balmy Blue, Pool Party, and Night of Navy. This is also a technique using some clear embossing powder, some Versamark. You'll need your heat gun and some basic white cardstock for your base card, as well as a piece 5 1/4 by 4, which is what we're going to do our stamping and our coloring on. And I also recommend using the Stamparatus. Here's some really neat foil sheets that are going to come with that suite, with the Waves of Inspiration sheet. You will need silver, and I'm using the all-purpose adhesive sheet on the back of that. These are some nice blending tools I'm using. I will have a link for the blending tools, but you recognize the sponge dauber. That's available in the annual catalog. Now, to begin with, we're going to do some coloring, and we're going to start out with the Pool Party. And what I'm trying to do, and I'm just picking a blending tool. What we're trying to do is I'm going to kind of start out with the sky. So we're going to kind of blend the top part of our cardstock. And I'm kind of using that technique where I'm kind of trying to come in off of the paper. If I was on a piece of glass, it'd probably be easier, but I don't have my Tim Holtz glass crafting mat, so I'm just kind of using the scrap paper. Now you'll notice it looks like there's some little circles where the blending tool is hitting the paper. That's okay. In fact, that is going to add a great deal to our effect, so don't worry about that. Just go ahead and make sure that you get as much color as you can around the edges and around the top, because you want to add as much color as possible. Now I'm shifting my blending tool, and I'm using Balmy Blue. Now I'm starting at this corner because on the other side is where our stamped image of our wave is going to be. So I want to kind of begin adding the color to the opposite side. And I'm not going to color the entire left-hand side of the paper because I want to leave some white or some rather lighter parts of my paper, letting some of the white show through, because that's going to kind of enhance our wave stamp image when we finish this blending technique. I'm using the embossing buddy because when I use the Versamark and I use the powder, if your ink is not completely dry, it's going to stick. So we want to make sure that the surface of your image has the embossing powder on it. Now I'm using the portrait mode here on my portrait alignment here, because I'm going to align my stamps here, this great big wave form. I want to just kind of align it, not necessarily to the edge because we're going to do some trimming, but I want to make sure it's kind of straight, and then I'm going to pick it up and make sure, and these are really powerful magnets, so that paper is there for good. I'm going to use the embossing buddy one more time because again I just want to make sure that my Versamark ink adheres to the paper and I don't have any extra embossing powder adhering to other parts of my image that I don't want it to adhere to. I'm pressing down firmly and I'm checking to make sure that I have that the Versamark ink has covered the entire paper with the image. If it hasn't, that's what's wonderful about the Stamparatus. You can go back over and over and over again until you get the image totally stamped on your paper. Now I'm going to grab my little coffee filter and we're going to pull in my my clear embossing powder, and we're just going to sprinkle that on, and it is nicely adhering to just my image. I did have to destroy a piece that basically I didn't use enough of the embossing buddy, so that's why I kind of offer that as a tip. I'm using the heat gun, and you'll see here in a minute how the image shows up on our paper. And there it is. You can kind of see it showing up. You can kind of see where that white part is, and that white part's kind of where the middle of my wave, and I kind of want that to be left kind of offer that extra I guess color or lack of color, because now we're going to do our third layer of blending. And I'm going to use my sponge dauber and Night of Navy ink. And my pad is very juicy, so I'm just going to take my sponge dauber. I think I'm going to move in here a little bit. I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm just going to start moving up. And I'm just going to blend as I'm moving up on my image, and I'm going to blend into the pool party and into that color. And I'm going to, you want to make sure that you get the darkest part of your Night of Navy should be at the bottom of the card. So I'm just kind of adding a lot of pigment down there along the bottom of my wave. Okay. Again, just making sure I get lots of nice dark color there towards the bottom of my wave. Alright, so now the next step is just grab a paper towel. You can grab a cloth. I like to crumple my towel to make it nice and soft. And I'm just going to wipe off the ink from my embossed surface. And when you do that, it kind of reveals where you have the balmy blue and the white. You can kind of see there's the balmy blue kind of along the bottom. You can see the white, and then you can kind of see where the pool party kind of is at the top of the wave. So it kind of gives your wave a lot of dimension by doing this technique, doing the coloring first, embossing, and then putting color over it. So now I'm going to cut my image down to size. And if you just cut along the size of the wave, it will fit nicely on 5.5 by 4.25. So I'm just kind of trimming, and I'm going to kind of look at it, and I think I've got a couple of areas I have to retrim. You can see right there towards there you go. See, there's this little part right there. See that right there? I'm gonna trim that down because I really want the wave to be on the absolute edge of my paper. And my stamping trimmer does an excellent job helping me kind of get there. There it is. So now it's nicely trimmed. Now I'm going to just basically score where my fold line is on my base card, and use my bone folder to kind of give me a nice crisp fold. And I'm going to bring in my scoreboard here in a minute. I'm just kind of putting things away, and yep, there's my scoreboard. Now I really like this technique when you have just a piece of cardstock that's going to go without much layering, because I think it really finishes your image as you frame it on that whisper white cardstock. So I'm just going to go ahead and score that along there, and now I'm going to, there's my basic white cardstock. It looks nice. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp both my my image. I'm going to pull the dies for my little birds, and in a minute I'm going to pull my die for my sentiment. Your strength is an inspiration. And I just think that goes really nice. Very, very nice sentiment and image for masculine cards. I'm using Night of Navy ink, and you can see where on this cardstock is the same cardstock I use for several cards I've already made. There's my framelit that I'm pulling out, and I'm going to go ahead and cut both my sentiment and my little birds, my seagulls, out of my silver foil that is backed with the adhesive, multi-purpose adhesive sheet. So there are the little seagulls. I'm just poking them out with an X-Acto knife, and now we can begin putting our card together. So I just kind of want to center my sentiment. I kind of like it there along the top because I just really like that wave image, where I'm going to use some embossing or some dimensionals and pop those up right there. You can see how pretty that blending really makes it look like a really powerful wave, which kind of goes with our sentiment. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply our seagulls, and the first one I'm applying is a seagull that's kind of got the stretched out wings, and I really liked it right there, as close to the dark blue as possible, so that silver really kind of contrasts nicely. And then the smaller one kind of there along the kind of on the bottom. And there you go. Now we're just going to put it on the cardstock, but I did find I had a little bit of card that kind of frayed a little bit there, so I'm just trimming it down. I'm going to use my multi-purpose glue, my Tombow glue. A little bit generous here. I don't think you have to be as generous with your glue because you really don't want any puckering, even though this glue is very good and does not pucker, especially if you kind of press it firmly, like I'm pressing it on there. Press it firmly, it won't pucker, but you don't really need that much glue. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this card. It's very easy to make, especially if you just want to get the stamp set and you don't want to get the other parts of the suite. But please go to my blog and get all the information. If you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll get a copy of the newsletter with all this product information for this new stamp set, as well as a free PDF. And again, everything you need to know is either down in the description for those links or on my blog. Thank you so much for joining me. Hit like and leave a comment. Happy stamping!